In this video, I'm going to go over my uranium exit strategy as we near into 2022. In no ways do I think we are at the end of the uranium bull market, but as time goes on and the uranium price rises, my exit strategies have changed somewhat. I'm going to go over those with you, but first hit that like and subscribe button below. And the first thing I want to talk about though today, before we go into all this, is we're going to look over here at natural gas prices. Now, if you notice, this is the European natural gas price, and they're going through a crisis, an energy crisis. Pretty much every commodity in the world right now related to energy is up this year. 616% for Euro natural gas. It hit a record high at 119 per megawatt hours. There are a lot of reasons for this, but as winter comes, I think this price is going to go up a lot higher. And one thing about this is we're having issues obviously there in Russia, possibly Ukraine, and there might be, energy crisis there because of the supply. And by crisis, I mean, there could be not only raise, the prices up double, triple, but they could also not have energy. There could be blackouts. Now, it's interesting to note, if you look back here on this chart, natural gas in the US actually hit a 12-year high back in October. And this was, very alarming, I'm sure, to utility companies out there because we had not seen these prices, since almost the last financial crisis. Now, imagine this. Uranium, this was our bull market here. Look at natural gas. Natural gas went up really high, and, utility companies, at the time, they wanted the contract for uranium. And look at some of the price peaks we had there in 2005. It was, close to $14. Which is a lot. This was 2005, and during the global financial crisis, went up again, and then finally, boom, everything dropped. I think I'm going to go over a chart where I think we are for uranium. I've showed it before, but it's a part of my exit strategy, and I'll talk about that. The overall stock market, before we get into this, was down yesterday. This is it. A lot of big stocks pulling it down. You can see Tesla here. But we're going to be going over this exit strategy. But just, if you've just invested in uranium in the last 6 months, note, and I just tweeted this yesterday, that spot is still up 32% since it did its run, since Sprott Physical Uranium Trust started. And this was in 83 trading days. They locked up 41 million pounds of U3O8. This is enough fuel to power 80 reactors. And the 60 plus uranium stocks, most of the ones I cover, they're up 20 to 170% still, even with the retrace that we've seen. Now, you can see there's still a lot of red, off that 52-week high. But I think as we go into 2022, things are going to change. And now my exit strategy. So I'm a long-term uranium investor. I do take swings, and I really don't day trade uranium at this point, but things might change as we go into 2022 and uranium price goes higher. My exit strategy possibly will change, and it already has. So day and swing traders, you can see the first thing I'm going to go over for uranium long-term investors, most people are, we're going to talk about this being usually the highest compounding returns, okay? These are the pros, okay? Pros and cons. The pros are, it gives you more free time, okay? There's also less taxes, the long-term capital gains. Most people, they don't look at their portfolio much. If you're a long-term uranium investor, there's almost no liquidity issues. There can be with uranium, the spreads are usually high. But if you get in long-term, you're not worrying about the liquidity getting in and out. And it's very, very volatile compounding gains. These can get, near the end of the bull market, they can go up thousands and maybe 10,000 plus percent. Most people in uranium also look at the fundamentals, the technicals. That's what I do. Both. I do a stock MRI, I call it. It's very detailed. These are usually the biggest gains, like I said, at the last 10% of the uranium bull market. But the risks with long-term uranium investing are natural disasters like Fukushima, the oversupply issues we saw, and permit and jurisdiction. Now, I think if you look at this chart here, I think we're somewhere around here. I think this is a pretty big sell-off we've just had, a lot of fears out in the market. But I think, as commodity prices, you just saw, they're going to continue to go up. Uranium is a very long-term trade for me, for a lot of people. And I think this This was back in 2004 to about 2007. I think this uranium bull market's going to stretch out a lot more. So this peak, we could see it sooner, but I think this will stretch across and we could have, possibly, a flag here instead of this parabolic curve that we see. Uranium, we're still not really in that media attention phase. I talked to a lot of people who actually traded uranium back 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. And a lot of these investors that I know, they said that there was never really anything on Bloomberg. I just started investing back in 2006. I never really saw anything on uranium. I was really involved in like gold and mining stocks. And I really never really heard about uranium. The only thing I knew was, the stuff that you heard on the news, the negative stuff. But I think right now we're in this great, phase that's right about to hit that media attention phase. And this is on the chart here. This is where the China actually had their, 11th 5-year plan. And we just recently had the same thing where nuclear was included, and the same thing happened with the recent one. They have these climate goals, 150 reactors. And as we talked about before, there was the Cigar Lake floods, supply issues. We're seeing the exact same things happen right now. If Cameco has any issues with their permitting in February, I think we're going to see some major issues. Now, the other risk with long-term, you're not really sometimes plugged into the market. A lot of investors, they're, long-term, sometimes they just, invest and they really don't see a lot of these things that could happen, these issues. And also, they can become bag holders. There's a lot of uranium stocks out there. I cover, the ones that I think have the best management, less risk of people becoming bag holders. But you also have less cash. You're usually, pretty all in when you're long-term investing. So if you're looking at the swing traders here in uranium, swing traders usually have high returns, less time in the market. They don't have to, invest for years and years. There is risks still. There's somewhat liquidity issues depending when you get out. We're still seeing low volumes on a lot of uranium stocks. The technicals are more important usually with a lot of people that follow swing trading. They'll look at the 6-month chart and they'll trade based on that. A lot of people, sometimes they don't even know about the company. The more you know about the company, the better I think the investment could be. There's, like I said, it's easier with the stocks to usually exit. You're not going to get caught. You also probably have less positions to monitor, and you can play the volatility on news. Like we've seen the last 3 months, 3 to 6 months, there's been a lot of volatility. Swing traders probably made, more money versus a long-term trader that got in, say 6 months. They might be down some, or they might just be holding on to their gains, because we saw on that chart before right here that all the charts, pretty much all uranium stocks, on here, they're recovering pretty much are still up since, but majority of them 20 to even 120% plus, so that's a lot since, since September, August, September. So we're still seeing, very good opportunity here, especially new traders getting in, swing traders. The risk though, market timing, we're seeing end of year sell-off. A lot of people, the markets are really choppy. They're going pretty much sideways. And you have high tax, short-term capital gains tax. So those are the risks, in my opinion, as we get closer in the uranium bull market and we get over here to this part of the phase where there's enthusiasm. We could see some volatility in here. And I might take some swing trades, into 2022. So with uranium stocks, a lot of uranium stocks I'm invested in, I've been in this pretty much orphan phase. They're looking to develop projects they already, have, and they're also exploring. So they still have this upside. Now, in this area with uranium going up, this is very important for a lot of, Australian listed uranium stocks that are there in Namibia. They can get in production in a few years. So this is a big upside. And we saw stocks like Paladin run, from this exploration phase, the concept, all the way up into mining. And I think this is my really sweet spot. Now, there are still opportunities in exploration. A lot of these companies are going to do the same thing. So they're going to have upside on both sides. But as a swing trader, you're not really looking to this long boom from the concept to the mining. You're looking at, maybe a discovery swing, or even, which we'll talk about, my strategies if we day trade. You're looking at discovery, news, boom, things, the uranium price going up, that's where this real swing trades, happen here. But you don't want to get caught, as a swing trader on this, boom, drop, right here where you see after a discovery, people lose interest. That's when, a lot of times that's when I would sell, after that. So uranium obviously is a long-term investment for me, but if I'm looking at my strategy of swing trading, which will be incorporated as uranium price goes higher in some stocks, that's what I'm going to look to do. Now, if we're talking about day trading, which is the last one, these are the fastest returns in uranium. And I have done this before. High risk, a lot of times last year I was doing this, the market, we didn't know what was going to happen. It is very high risk, tolerance. There's big volatility. If you're day trading, you're probably trading with a lot more, money, and a lot of people trade with leverage. I don't, I use cash. And the thing is, a lot of times technicals are very important for this, news, the stock, does it have volume, and, the rewards, you're not married to these stocks. Okay. So this is a big thing. I don't believe in marrying stocks or even sectors. Play the volatility. You can play both sides. In my opinion, I never, short uranium stocks, but, on the downside, you could sell very quickly, like I said, you can buy and exit on the news, and you need to be plugged into the market. This is something that takes, professionals. You got to be in the market, pretty much 24/7, pre-market as well. But the risks are liquidity. Very hard right now at this point to day trade uranium stocks on the OTC. A lot of the good stocks, are trading on the OTC still. Even on the big boards, some of the big stocks, LEU, they're low floats. They're harder. If there's a lot of volume in there, it's going to run. That's, time to trade. But if you're looking to buy and sell, it's going to be a lot harder and higher tax as always, capital gains, and I think as we get closer, like I said here, as we get closer to this phase where we're starting to see a real parabolic move and uranium gaps up, there's a lot of swing and day trading opportunities, but the problem is, with uranium, if you can get in very low, the gains can be massive. And, right now, who's to say that a dollar uranium stocks doesn't go to $10, and 10x, which we could possibly see. But these are some of the rules I actually have came up with or adopted. And they're what I use for my long-term swing and day trading especially for uranium. So my thing is, this is a strategy. What I'm showing you guys, my strategy right now has been long-term investing. As 2022 comes in, I'm going to switch to a lot of swing trading. I'm going to still hold my core uranium stocks, but I'm going to use a lot of my cash for swing trading. And as this enthusiasm, public, interest in uranium, the greed, we see uranium, gap up $100 to $200. I'm going to day trade a lot of this. There's going to be probably, days where uranium stocks are going up, 50%. You never know with this market. Now, like I said, you have to have a strategy. I have a strategy. I stick to, what works. And, as I'm a long-term investor, I might sell off some stocks, in uranium if I think that, management, things have changed. And, you got to assess it regularly. Change as the uranium bull market changes, as we go into new eras and we're, in this new paradigm, as you see on here, because that will happen. Overproduction is going to happen. There's going to be oversupply. There could be a disaster. Hopefully there's not, like Fukushima here. And, as time goes on, you got to switch those things up. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, trade what is being traded. So if I'm swing trading and day trading, I got to trade the stocks that have volume and invest in what is being hated. I think this is the first time I've really heard anyone say this. I came up with it yesterday because I was looking at my mindset and say, what do? I trade what's being traded and I invest in what's hated. I ignore the noise. I do my own research. I don't follow many people out there. I do my own research and I'm not always right, but I stick to it and I change and I adapt. If I'm wrong, I look at it and I fix it. I track wins and losses. I protect profits, cuts, and I cut the losses, quickly. Stocks, this is another thing. Stocks have sense memory. So a lot of stocks that I've, swing traded in the past or day traded, I'm going to come back to those uranium stocks, especially if they get news. I keep the winners and I get rid of the losers. I've really recently, in the past 6 months, really cut out a lot of losers or trimmed some gains, and bought back, thankfully, on the volatility. And I'm not afraid to be down on the stock. This is where uranium investors, my exit strategy, I'm not going to sell off if a stock in uranium drops, 10, 20%, if the fundamentals are not changing. If the management is still good and they have permits and things like that, I'm not going to sell off. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I'm not going to marry a stock or the sector. Things can change. And I also never margin a stock. That's another thing. I never margin on this. I'm not going to buy a stock I don't have money for. These are things that if I'm not on margin, it's going to be a lot easier not to sell if a stock's down, like we've seen in uranium in the past, month. Diversification, it doesn't diversify you, it dilutes you. This is something I really believe. With uranium, I had 45, 50 uranium stocks last year. And a lot of times the portfolio would jump like crazy. Now, a lot of those stocks are still up, but as time goes on, as of right now, if I bought 50 uranium stocks, it's going to be a lot harder to keep track of them. They're going to not have as many gains as you saw if I bought those, a few months ago, 50 plus. It'd be a real hurt right now. So I like to concentrate on the best stocks. The other thing is, if management's not invested, neither should my money. I believe in companies. The most I have invested in companies in uranium are usually companies that have directors, management, CEOs, as well as, big investors. The top investors, have a lot of skin in the game. I also have low ball bids and moon sell orders. By this is, if I'm looking at a stock, I want to invest in it, I might have a really low bid in, and sometimes those get filled. Same thing with sell orders. If a stock in uranium runs 50, 100%, I might sell a good amount of it because, it might just be this volatile move that drops back down. And I remove emotions. So a lot of these rules help me remove the emotions in trading. It takes a lot of time in my, training in stocks and investing, and especially in the uranium sector. It's taken time to do this. I think of an investment, especially a long-term one, only really a long-term one, as a part ownership of a company. So if I started a company with my buddy Lewis Morgan, who's created billion-dollar companies, if I believe in him and believe in, AKA the management of a stock, I'm going to invest my money, and I expect my money to be used to help grow the company. So AKA the stock is going to likely go down if I'm a long-term investor. If I'm swing trading, day trading, no. Protect profits, never want it to go down. I'll have stop losses. But a long-term investing, if I'm investing with Lewis in, say, his new company, Able, I am going to know that the money I'm investing is going to be used to grow my value in the company. And I don't expect to sell it immediately when it goes up or goes down. And that's the way I look at stock investing. And this really changed my mindset when I started to look at it like that. My long-term investing, you've seen my other videos, how much stocks I've invested in swing day trading in the past, or the ones that I was very long in that I sold out, in the past 4 or 5 years, those stocks are up so much. And you just got to look at it that way and invest in good companies, good management, good people. That's the best, that's the best thing. This is my strategy going forward. And I like to move my money funds to the ideas and sectors and stocks that are working and that will be needed soon. Okay. And some stocks, trade differently than others. This is something I've noticed. Some uranium stocks do. They react to volume differently. We saw Denison have hundreds of millions of volume leading the market back in February. It had almost $1 billion, volume in February combined. I think it's 800 million. And, a stock like that, obviously bigger market cap, but it doesn't move like another stock with a similar market cap in uranium that has that much volume. Another stock might move, 300-400% in the month. Some stocks, like I said, will do that. Now, this is one of my biggest key pillars for my strategy, is invest in management teams that you would start a business with and those that have done it before. So a big one is Deep Yellow, John Borshoff, uranium company. I believe that company is going to do really well. They've done it before and they've got good assets. And so I trust them. But it doesn't mean I marry it. I could sell it at any point. And the biggest thing for me is trusting myself. No one cares about your money. This is not investment advice. It's just really for people to look out there, look at yourself. You got to do your own due diligence. Perform a stock MRI. This is what I call it. Call management or investor relations. Read the annual reports 10 years back. You better be reading those. See insider filings. Zoom out on the technicals. Quit pigeonholing. Looking, with a microscope. Okay, you're looking with a microscope. A lot of uranium investors in the last year are sad, that something they recently invested in is down some. Quit looking at that if you're a long-term investor. If you're a day trader, swing trader, yeah, go ahead, do it. But we're not even close to seeing this parabolic move yet in uranium. And as you saw before, there's big upside in the energy sector. In uranium, we're still doing really well. Spot uranium price is up 32%. Okay, we're still up 32%. In the last 3 months, we saw a 57% move in 1 month in uranium, okay? So look at the moves in the past. It took 12 months to move 202%. We could very well get there. I think we could see $100+ into the, October of next year, maybe sooner. So that's really where we're at in uranium. Now, a lot of things have happened. I've also shown this with my exit strategy day in swing trading. I protect profits. I try not to lose. And as you see here, when uranium stocks or any stock drops, there's a big upside. So if you can get in, like right now on a lot of stocks that are off the 52-week high, or maybe 5-6 year high, then there's big upside, okay? A 50-60% drop, there's 150% upside to get back to where, quote, the bag holders are. Now, I don't think majority of the uranium stocks out there that have good management, it's not really a bag holder right now. We're not even there. Even uranium stocks that don't get into production probably will see a big run soon. But this is another chart that I look at and that really changed my investing outlook, because a lot of uranium stocks, in the past 10 years, they were in this area, 95+, maybe even 98% if the stock diluted out shareholders to pretty much oblivion. There is massive upside to get back to where those were. Now, a lot of things have changed in a lot of those companies. We might never get back to there in some of those, but we could. So with uranium, like I said, I'm looking to start to, as we hit this sell-off phase, there will be swing trading that I'm going to look to do in uranium stocks. I will start to day trade as the price really starts to move, but I'm going to hold those core companies, those uranium stocks that I think are very strong. And as you can see here, the gains since the lows, we've had majority of the stocks are in Australia traded, and they're on the OTC, but they are usually in Africa, Namibia mainly, especially a lot of the stocks that I've recently covered, like Deep Yellow. In my opinion, that's one of the key managements out there that I think is going to get into production. Encore Energy is another one. I believe it was yesterday, I think Global Atomic also said that they're looking to get into production by like 2025. So, this is really important, management with permits and that are really wanting to get into production. That's what we saw the biggest runs. So as the spot price moves up, Spot's done really well. They've done really well taking out that uranium. As the new year happens, we maybe get a New York Stock Exchange listing for Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. We're probably going to see a lot more moves like this, okay? 60, 70, 80, maybe 100+, 200% in uranium. And those stocks will do massive runs. And as we get closer, to the uranium, peak, 2-3 years from now, that's when I think as of right now, we start to see peak contracting. That's probably where the uranium price will start to peak, but we never know. That could be years out. But I think it's probably one of the best moves. I am a long-term uranium investor at heart. Again, hit the like and subscribe button below, please. If you like this video, let me know below, are you still investing in uranium? And if you want a link to all the charts that I just had, there's a link in the description below for my Patreon if you want to support the channel. As always, I don't sell things like courses and all that, so your support really helps out there. And you get linked to the Discord, the private Discord. That's where I update everyone. I try to comment back here on YouTube, but it's really hard. There's a lot of comments, a lot of people asking questions, but I do that in Discord. So go ahead and check that out. And until next time.